So let me introduce the presenter for this class, Janalee McBride. Janalee holds a Bachelor's of Science in Professional Studies with an Associate in Family History Research from Brigham Young University, Idaho. Janalee is a United States and Canada Research Specialist at the FamilySearch Library in Salt Lake City, Utah. She specializes in the United States Southwest region, DNA, and Latter-day Saint records. And with that, we'll turn the time over to Janalee.
Perfect. I am so excited to be here today. Well, let's get started. One of my favorite stories about my ancestors is a story that my grandma told me 10 years ago. She talked about my fifth great grandmother, Sarah Ferguson McDonald, and how she was a pioneer who crossed the plains with her husband and children in search of a better life for her family. 300 miles into their trek, her husband became sick with cholera and died within 24 hours, leaving her alone with 8 children and 1,000 miles left on their journey. Her husband was buried in a shallow grave on the bank of the Platte River. That night, after putting her kids to bed, she walked down to the river to wash off the dirt from the day. As she watched the fast-flowing river pass by her, she thought to herself how easy it would be to let the river take her and join her dear husband. Just as she contemplated this thought, one of her young children called out to her. She knew that her children needed her. She dried off her feet and went back to the wagon. The next day, Sarah stopped one last time at the grave of her husband, and with her children continued on. She eventually made it to Utah and left behind an example of perseverance and faith that her posterity can reflect on and be strengthened by over and over again. Stories like these are some of the treasures that can be found when tracing your Latter-day Saint family members. So our objective today is first, we're going to summarize the history and background of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and their family history records. We will then describe the genealogical value that is found in these records. We're going to review methodology for using these records and demonstrate how to find these records. And then my favorite part is that we get to go through a case study using what we just learned so that I can show you how to find them. Okay, so let's start with the history and background of these records. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has one of the most sophisticated and organized systems of record keeping and reporting of any similar organization in the world. However, it did take them several years from their beginning as a church to get a good system down. So let's briefly go through a timeline of the church to help you understand the types of records that you may find and the places that they may be in. So the church began in 1830 in Fayette, New York. And in 1831, they moved to Kirtland, Ohio, and established their headquarters there. Later that same year, they sent members to Jackson County, Missouri, and established another home base. In 1837, the first foreign mission was opened in the British Isles. And in 1838, most church officers and members left Kirtland. Others were forced out of Missouri, which led the Latter-day Saints to settle in Nauvoo, Illinois. By 1840, the first company of Latter-day Saints sailed from England to the United States. In 1846, the Latter-day Saints were driven out of Nauvoo and forced to start over again. They created 3 temporary settlements while migrating west: winter quarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and Mount Pisgah and Council Bluffs in Iowa. That same year, they sent their first company of members across the plains. Eventually, 70,000 members traveled a 1,300-mile-long trail called the Mormon Trail. The first group of Latter-day Saints arrived in Utah in 1847. In 1849, the Perpetual Emigrating Fund started to help poor saints move to Utah. And in 1850, the church started to send missionaries to France, Italy, Switzerland, and Scandinavian countries. Between 1850 and 1900, there was major colonization efforts by the Latter-day Saints, which established towns in Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Nevada, California, Wyoming, Mexico, and Canada. Utah remained the headquarters of the church, and the church continued to grow. According to the 2022 Church Statistical Report, the church's total membership had reached over 17 million members, with 188 published languages and over 31,000 congregations. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been known by many names, so let's talk about them. In 1829, the name was the Church of Christ. By 1834, they changed it to the Church of the Latter-day Saints. In 1838, the official name became the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they changed it just a little bit in 1966. The church produced an official style guide that added a hyphen in Latter-day with a lowercase d. And presently, this remains their official name. There have been several nicknames given to the church and its members over the years. In 2018, the church clarified the name and nicknames that are official and those that are discouraged from use. For the purpose of this class, we will refer to the church by its official names. However, some records and history titles, like the Mormon Trail, still may refer to some of the alternative names. Okay, now that we have a good idea of the background and history of Latter-day Saint records, let's talk about their genealogical value. Why do we want to look in these records? So we're going to go through 5 main types of records that are used when researching Latter-day Saints. So we're going to talk about membership records, church census records, migration records, missionary records, and my favorite, journals and biographies. In the formative years of the church from 1830 to 1877, there was no standard format for record keeping. Information was written on any type of paper that was available, and it was compiled in notebooks or some kind of container. So many records were lost and destroyed or stolen. When the members of the church were driven out of Nauvoo, this added to the disorganization. This left the church with scattered and few membership records for the first 20 years. Between 1877 and 1900, the first uniform system for keeping records was established. The records at this time were called the long book form. The book was 4 feet long when it was opened. Although the system at this time was more uniformed, it's still difficult to search these records since each page is not alphabetized and it is not indexed. In 1900, the church introduced a smaller-sized membership record. This is known as the short form, which contained the same general information as the long form. This form was indexed, and it contains 3 parts. So part 1 has a record of members, part 2 has a record of ordinations, and part 3 has a record of children not yet baptized. In 1920, the church introduced a new membership record that took the information that was in the short form and combined it into one section. This form is called the box type form. There are 4 to 6 boxes on each page, and each box has its own number assigned to it. There was an index at the front of the book that showed the box number rather than the page number. Each box has a space for the member's personal information. In 1941 to present day, the church began to use a system known as the card type system. Family and individuals would put their information on a card and it would be kept in their ward or branch alphabetically. In early 1973, the church changed its records to a computerized system, which is what they use today. When a member died, the card would be sent to the church headquarters and placed in what is called the deceased membership file. The membership department kept these records for 10 years. Then after 10 years, the name were then transferred to the church history library. The deceased membership file contains cards from 1941 to 1988. In 1907, the church required an annual statistical and genealogical report to be submitted. So wards, branches, and stakes would submit Form E. Keep in mind that these reports do not list everyone in the ward or branch. Form E lists only those who had certain life events in that year. This included yearly sections for members who immigrated and full-time missionaries who worked in the area during the year from 1911 to 1962. As you go through these membership records, this is the rich genealogical value that you're going to find. You're going to find names, birth dates and places, baptism dates, death dates, places, and death cause. You will find family names, place of residence, marriages, missionaries, parents, siblings, members that were received into the ward, and members that were removed out of a ward. And you can also find national origins. Now let's talk a little about the census. The church took census records to track members and church growth throughout the world. In the winter of 1852, the bishops of Utah took a census. In this census, they recorded the names of the head of each family and the ward or branch name. The first church-wide census was taken in 1914. And beginning in 1920, the church took a census every 5 years until 1960, except for 1945 due to World War II. Images of these census records are available up to 1950. The census was written on individual or family cards, arranged alphabetically by the head of household. Each person in the household is listed. When you're looking at one of these census cards, you'll be able to see things like the ward or the branch and the stake that the family lived in, which is important. You're going to learn about later why this is important to gain this information. You're also going to see the family information, and in some census years, you will see information about the ward or branch that the family moved from. The genealogical value found in the church census varies year to year. So I created this table that is included in your handout and can be referred to when searching for church census records. In the early years of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, all faithful members were encouraged to move to the Rocky Mountains. Many records were created from this movement. By learning about an ancestor's migration west, you may find records that provide important genealogical information to aid in your research. There are many historical sites along the Mormon Trail that may hold stories about your ancestor. The two main types of migration records that document the Latter-day Saints are records crossing the ocean or crossing the plains. Between 1840 and 1932, nearly 90,000 Latter-day Saint converts crossed the oceans. This travel is documented in autobiographies, journals, passenger lists, and ship registers. The movement across the plains to the valley of the Great Salt Lake is the largest organized migration movement in American history, spanning from 1846 until 1925. These moments are documented in journals and rosters, newspapers, trail diaries, autobiographies, and many other resources filled with valuable genealogical information. In 1849, Brigham Young established the Perpetual Immigration Fund to help poor and impoverished saints around the world gather to Utah. 20,000 to 30,000 individuals received assistance, either directly or indirectly, from the Perpetual Immigration Fund. There is not a complete list of recipients, but the list that we do have provide valuable clues about your ancestors' migration. So some of the information that you're going to find when you're searching in migration records are the pioneer's name, their age, their gender, departures and arrivals, the name of the pioneer company that they traveled with, birth, death, and names of those who traveled with them. Almost 40,000 men and women served proselyting missions. They taught in 36 countries and spoke to millions of people. There are multiple collections with missionary records between 1830 to 1971. Some of the missionary records include registers, mission calls, and recommendations. Quite a bit of information is found in missionary records, such as the full name of the missionary, parents' full names, birth date and place, residence, the ward or stake name, the mission location, dates departed for and returned from their mission, baptism dates, and their present residence. Journals and biographies are a great secondary source that can provide you with clues to original sources. Across the plains, across the ocean, and on missions, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wrote about their experiences. Many biographies and life sketches have been created to capture inspiring stories and day-to-day challenges. These treasures have been handed down for several generations and document the life of Latter-day Saints from the beginning. You may find the individual's names, birth, marriage, and death information, and the names of parents, children, or other family members. Biographies often include photographs, family traditions, stories, clues about an ancestor's place of origin, professional accomplishments, military service, and activities within the community. The Early Church Information File, which is also known as the ECIF, is not a record type, but it is a large digitized database that contains a collection of index cards with additional sources on each card. Between 1830 and the mid-1900s, it is a collection of over 1 million cards that are alphabetized and covers 1,200 sources. The Early Church Information File indexes information from collections like membership records, ward histories, family histories, journals, missionary records, immigration records, and much, much more. For a list of all of the collections that were indexed, you can find it in the FamilySearch catalog. Each individual card in the ECIF contains different information depending on the original source that it was pulled from. They can contain the name of your ancestor, dates for certain events and residences, additional sources that may lead to other clues about your ancestor, and call numbers or film numbers that tell you where the source is found. Okay, now let's talk about how do we use these records. So start by gathering what you already know about your ancestor. What sources have you found already? Do you have journals? Do you have photos, documents that have been passed down to you or a family member that you know? One of my favorite journals is about my third great-grandfather and has 175 pages. It was donated to the Church History Library after a descendant of my grandfather passed away. I was not aware of this journal, and thank goodness this descendant donated it and didn't destroy it. So ask your family members if they have collections that you may not be aware of. Once you gather this information, then it's important to organize it and then evaluate each source and item to look for names and places and dates. Create tables or spreadsheets to help you visualize the family's life that you are focused on. It's also important to keep track of your ancestors' life events by using a timeline. This will help you understand where to look and the dates of possible immigration or missions that your ancestor went on. So this timeline shows me that my ancestor was born in Pike, Missouri, and he married in Dyer, Tennessee, and had his first child in Austin, Texas. The next 5 children were born in Texas. However, by creating a timeline, I'm able to see that this family traveled far during the years of 1849 and 1851, since their 7th child was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. He stayed in Utah and died in Logan, Utah. So this timeline helps me to visualize the life of this ancestor and identify relatives that may have traveled with the saints. The FamilySearch Wiki is an important tool for Latter-day Saint research because there are multiple wiki pages related to Latter-day Saint research. You're going to want to use search terms in the wiki like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS, Mormon, and once you find the page, then you're going to use those embedded links that are on that page that take you to databases or other sites that carry key important records. Okay, another thing to remember when you're researching collections is to click on the How to Use This Collection button. It's located under the collection description on the main page. This is a valuable resource in figuring out what exactly is in this collection, what dates does it cover, and are there other databases that are similar to the one that I'm using. Many of the valuable records are not available to be viewed online. You will want to create a list of collections that can only be viewed in the library. Be sure to put the call numbers or film numbers that you found on the list so you can be prepared. Plan ahead and give yourself enough time to search these records. There are many treasures to look in related to Latter-day Saint research. Now let's discuss how do we find the records. So let's start by how do we find membership records? We're going to go back to the ECIF. The ECIF, or Early Church Information File, is a great way to find information about your ancestors that's needed to search membership records such as ward, branch, stake, or mission names. So there's multiple ways that you can get to the ECIF. One way is by going to the FamilySearch catalog and putting ECIF in a keyword search. Not all cards in this collection are the same because remember, this collection references over 1,200 sources. So on this particular card, I am given a call number of the source that is being referenced. Notice I am also given the name of the individual and their ward name. In the description, I can see that John C. Baum is listed in the bishop's census of 1852. If I put the call number into the FamilySearch catalog, I can see the book that this card is referring to. When I searched in the digital book, I was able to find John C. Baum and other possible family members since they were all from the same ward, the Provo 5th Ward. In order to look at membership records, you need to enter the location and ward name into the FamilySearch catalog. This is why it's important to know what the ward name is. If you're not sure where the Provo 5th Ward is located, you can find this information in a variety of sources, but this one is one of my favorites. So this is a great source. This is a website called Mormon Places. Mormon Places is an interactive gazetteer of geographic locations that are significant to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You go to mormonplaces.byu.edu and then click on Congregations. Once you know the location of the ward, you can go to the FamilySearch catalog. In the place field, you can put the location, and in the keyword field, you can type the ward name. Then click on Church Records. And this is where the membership records can be found. The Church History Library houses the most comprehensive collection of membership records. Membership records that were microfilmed after 1970 are available only at the Church History Library. They are listed in their catalog online under the name of the branch or ward. You can get to the Church History Library by going to history.churchofjesuschrist.org. Now, when you are searching on the Church History Library in their catalog, it's easy to tell if a collection is digitized. In your search results, to the left of the collection title, you're going to see these icons that show if the collection is digital or non-digital. Non-digital collections will need to be viewed in the Church History Library. Another very valuable collection that helps you find membership records is at FamilySearch called the Record of Members Worldwide. This collection can be found by going to the FamilySearch wiki and navigating to a page named Membership Records of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This collection contains a worldwide record of members. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints between 1836 and 1970. The Record of Members project, it's a growing project, so this is changing. You need to check back often to see which collections have been added. It is being indexed for and in partnership with the Church History Library. To see details of the collection and find out what is included in it, remember to click on the How to Use This Collection. This will show you what content is in the collection, and it will give you the most recent date that the database was updated. The information found on each person varies, but it can contain some very valuable information. So this is one of the indexes that popped up when I searched in this membership record. Now it gives you an index. It does say that there is an image, but it is unavailable. So you will probably need to see that image on the Church History Library's website or in person. And as I said, this information varies for each person, but it can contain some very valuable information, such as a baptism date or a blessing date, the name of the ward or the stake. In this record, I can tell that this is my great-grandfather since it gives me his birth date and birthplace that I already have and his parents' name. It also provides me with information I didn't know, such as a baptism date, who baptized him, and the name of his ward and stake. So it's very valuable. Let's talk about how we find census records. Again, the Bishop's Report of 1852 to 1853 that we talked about earlier can be found in the FamilySearch Library catalog. So you can search by place and enter in United States, Utah. Then you're going to go to church records, or you can search directly by call number. The church census that we talked about that was taken from 1914 And through 1960, this can also be found in the same area as the bishop's report. You can also search by title in the FamilySearch Wiki. You can just enter church census records, or you can find it in the historical records search. Okay, let's find some migration records. The Saints by Sea website was researched and created by a large team at BYU. This website offers first-person accounts of international converts, autobiographies, journals, diaries, and letters linked to hundreds of known Latter-day Saint immigrant voyages and names of passengers, providing some history about those who crossed the ocean. This is the amazing information that you're going to find if you happen to find an ancestor in Saints by Sea. Notice that there's pictures. Let's talk about some of these features. When you search for an individual, you can see specific information about their voyage, including the date of travel and what port they left from. You can see personal information and other passengers that they may be related to. If you click on the link that says read about the voyage, then you get those photos or information about the ship. You get to read accounts of the voyage along with a list of passengers. Archive.org has a digital book called Names of Persons and Sureties Indebted to the Perpetual Immigration Fund Company from 1850 to 1877. This book lists the names of individuals who owed money to the Perpetual Immigration Fund with the year that they immigrated. FamilySearch also has a collection called Perpetual Immigration Fund Company Financial Accounts Worldwide. This collection tracks payments and donations to the fund. You can access this and other collections by going to the FamilySearch Wiki and searching for Perpetual Immigration Fund. There are several other databases that can assist you in your search for immigration records. Finding migration and missionary records. We're going to go back to the Church History Library. The Church History Library has a biographical database that is deeply researched. It's a repository of biographical information on Latter-day Saints who lived during the first 110 years of the restored church. It includes data from over 61,000 pioneers who immigrated to Utah between 1847 and 1868, as well as information on over 44,000 missionaries who served between 1830 and 1840. So this information comes from the merger of two databases previously hosted by the Church History Library. So the Pioneer Overland Trail, you may be familiar with, and the Missionary database. They were merged to create the biographical database. You can search for an individual by putting in their name in the main search bar, or you can say, show my ancestors, which I love this feature. Show my ancestors allows you to link to your FamilySearch account, and it links it to their biographical database. Once you link your FamilySearch account, it will automatically pull in ancestors from your tree that are missionaries or pioneers. When you click on the ancestor's name, you will see their life laid out in a timeline view. It gives researchers a chronological representation of this data. In addition to basic biographical information for a given Latter-day Saint, you may also find things such as birth and death dates with their corresponding locations. The database also displays information such as the following if it is available: a photograph of the individual, parents' names, baptism date, and if available, the baptism location and the person who performed the ordinance. If the person was a pioneer, their pioneer company and traveling companions will be listed. And if the person served a mission or missions, the name of the mission and their dates of service, along with other details, are at the bottom about their mission. Finding journals and biographies. You can find journals and biographies in multiple ways. One of the ways is to go to the FamilySearch catalog and enter the location of your ancestor in the place field. Then go to biographies. Many of these biographies and journals can be searched the same way we have searched other collections. Joseph Smith was the founding prophet and first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. His journals and documents have been transcribed and published online for research and review. You can visit www.josephsmithpapers.org to view the journals, the histories, the documents, legal records, and more. You can search for your ancestor by name and see if they're mentioned in any of Joseph Smith's papers. By clicking on the search result, you're able to see the original records and the transcription of the record. Another leader of the church named Wilford Woodruff also kept detailed journals. These are currently being transcribed and made available online. Visit the www.wilfordwoodruffpapers.org. This website is searchable as well. When I searched for my relative, it took me to a page with a small biography about him. And when I clicked on the source, I could see the original record and a transcription of the record. Okay, another source that can help us in our research of members is the FamilySearch campaigns. So these campaigns are projects that are centered around family history, experiences, and activities. They're designed to be fun and informative, educational. They're made for groups. They can be used for family activities. Some campaigns are permanent while others come and go. Occasionally, you will see a certain campaign featured on the main homepage of FamilySearch like this one. So this one was featured for July 24th, which is a Utah holiday celebrating Pioneer Day. These campaigns exist even if they are not featured on the homepage. So how do we get to them? So to see a list of current campaigns that FamilySearch is offering, you can go to familysearch.org/do/campaign and /list. There is this website is listed in your handout, so you don't have to memorize that. Currently right now at FamilySearch, we have 9 campaigns that are focused on members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So this table is in your handout as well, so I don't expect you to memorize this either. However, the 9 campaigns currently is the Pioneer Trail, Missionary Ancestors, Cemeteries, Saints by Sea, Pioneer Children, the Pioneer Child Memorial, Journey of Faith, Female Pioneers, and Nauvoo. You can get directly to the campaign by going to familysearch.org/campaign and then insert the campaign name. This is valuable. This is the kind of thing that you're going to see when you go to these campaigns. You'll get a page like this. You will need to sign in with your FamilySearch account in order for these campaigns to work because it is going off of your tree. And these campaigns are going to connect you to your ancestors and highlight key facts about them. It will also allow you to learn more about the ancestor by providing a link to their person page, which allows you to find photos and stories if they have been put into the tree. Now for the fun part. Let's go through a case study and apply all that we've learned about Latter-day Saint records so far. So at the beginning of this class, I introduced you to my 5th great-grandmother, Sarah Ferguson McDonald. For this case study, we will learn more about her family and how to use Latter-day Saint records. When we began our research, we always want to start with what we already know about our ancestors. Organizing what we know in tables and timelines helps us analyze and visualize what records we need to look in and gives us an overall picture of the family that we are researching. One of the first things I look for when trying to identify a family that may have joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and migrated with the saints is a table that shows dates and locations of each person's birth and death. So with this table, I can see that all of the family was born in Ireland except for one child that was born in Nauvoo, Illinois. The date of the child's birth fits the timeline of when the Latter-day Saints were living in Nauvoo. I can also see that James MacDonald died during a time the pioneers were crossing the plains and in an area along the Mormon Trail. 2 children passed away in Nauvoo, Illinois in years that fits the timeline of the early pioneers living there. The rest of the family must have completed their journey since they all died out west. So to find information about their trek west, I went to the Church History Library catalog and connected my FamilySearch account to their biographical database. I was able to locate James MacDonald and able to see that he traveled with the Benjamin Hawkins Company that left in 1850, which is the same year James died. From the timeline of events that the biographical database provides, I can see that this company started their journey on June 5th, 1850, and James was only with the company for 12 days before he died on the trail. I can also see who his traveling group was, which was his family and their ages. If I click on Sarah's name, it shows me that she arrived in Utah with the rest of the company on the 9th of September, 1850, which means her journey took 3 months and 4 days, with most of that journey in grief over the loss of her spouse. The sources that are attached to the bottom of everyone in the biographical database can link you to original sources, journals, biographies, and secondary sources. Not all sources attached are accurate. They do need to be evaluated and analyzed like any other sources that you come across. It is wise to look at each individual in the family since they could each have different sources attached to them. The sources attached to James and his family did provide some biographical sketches and extra insights about their trek west. The original sources were not available, but transcripts of the record were provided. To learn more about the family while in Utah, we need to find out where they settled and what their ward name is. The early church information file was searched to locate the membership records, census records, and any other sources that may provide evidence of Sarah MacDonald's life after arriving in Utah. So this source for Sarah MacDonald is in the bishop's report for the first census that was taken in Utah. Sarah arrived in Utah in 1850, being listed in the 1852 bishop's report fits this timeline. And she was a widow at the time, which makes her the head of household, which would explain why she is listed. Sarah MacDonald was located in the bishop's report with the ward name of Springville or Hobble Creek Ward. Next to her name is John MacDonald living in the same ward. This could be her son, but other records would need to be located to confirm that this is the right family. So there were other cards in the ECIF for Sarah MacDonald. So I created a table of information that was extracted from these cards. 2 of the cards were an index of membership records. These records list Sarah's ward as Springville and the stake as Kolob. This will help me locate original membership records. 2 of the cards from the ECIF were sources that cannot be viewed online. These must be viewed in the FamilySearch library, so these items can be put into an on-site research list. To find out more information about the Springville ward and Kolob stake, I went to Mormon Places. The Springville ward started in 1852 and then became the Springville branch, followed by Springville First Ward. There are several membership records at the bottom with links that take you directly to where you need to go. After clicking on the links to the collection, I learned that these records can only be viewed in the FamilySearch library. So I will add these collections to the on-site research list that I have created. So right now on my on-site research list, we have the membership records and the sources that I found in the ECIF for Sarah McDonald. Once at the library, I can add notes to this list or further collections that need to be searched in. After visiting the FamilySearch library, I was able to see that one of the sources was a biography of Sarah's son, John McDonald, with just a mention of Sarah and James McDonald as his parents. The other source was an index of biographical sketches that are in other collections. It listed the collection and told me the volume and page the biography is on. I added the 2 new sources that needed to be found, and in notes, I added the new information. There were some great facts about the family's travels that I took note of, but none of these facts were sourced. I have no way of knowing if these facts were accurate. I found quite a few facts in looking through the Latter-day Saint records. And after organizing my facts into a timeline for Sarah, I'm able to visualize what other records might be helpful. I noticed that there's a gap between 1857, after she moved to Heber City, and her death in 1883. Sarah would not be listed in the worldwide church census since that started in 1914, and she had already passed away. I tried to look for membership records in Heber City, Utah, but 1857 to 1883 is still the beginning years of membership records with no standardized record-keeping system, and I wasn't able to locate membership records for Heber City. After searching many databases for journals or biographies, I found a treasure. This is a 158-page family history book titled James McDonald, Sarah Ferguson, Their Progenitors and Their Posterity. This book tells the entire family history story of James and Sarah McDonald with photos, maps, and stories of Ireland, where their story began, and it continues their history through Sarah's life and through the life of their posterity, with original sources cited all throughout the book. This was exactly what was needed to fill in the gaps. So in our class today, we summarize the history and background of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and their family history records. We described the genealogical value. We reviewed methodology for using these records. We demonstrated how to find these records, and we went through a case study using Latter-day Saint church records. So we'll now take some time for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janalee. That was a great presentation. We invite all of you in our audience today to take a survey and provide feedback for this class, and I will post the link to that into the chat. Now we have a few minutes for questions. If you have a question about Latter-day Saint church records, please post that into the comments section. And remember that we only have a few minutes, so we might not be able to answer everything. So we had a few questions come in. Cindy from StreamYard, she was asking, is Saints by Sea at BYU or is it FamilySearch?
Saints by Sea was a project that was created by BYU, and so it is the website, that website, Saints by Sea. So it's a database outside of FamilySearch.
Perfect, thank you. So Julia was asking, where did you find that amazing book in your case study?
So I found that book by going into books in FamilySearch, which is where you can also find journals and biographies. So if you go to FamilySearch, we have a section that is called books, and it has our digital books that have been scanned. So this book must have been donated to the library, is my guess, but I don't know. And when I just searched for Sarah McDonald or Sarah Ferguson or James McDonald, then this book came up, and I was so excited and delighted because there were original sources cited all throughout the book.
Wow, that's wonderful. That is such a great, amazing book that you were able to find.
I know, I agree. I'm so excited about it.
Mm-hmm. So Janice from Facebook, she was asking, how do I find these records of the Latter-day Saint Church in England?
So you're going to find them the same way. You're going to find them through membership records by going into the catalog, by putting in the place, and if you know the ward name, by putting in the ward name, and then going to church records. So either way, wherever you're at all around the world, the membership records are going to be located the same way.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have someone on YouTube that just asked, when you're referring to on-site access only records, is that the main library in Salt Lake, or can they use the other FamilySearch centers?
It's the main library in Salt Lake because they are on microfilm. So you're going to need to come to the library in Salt Lake and use the microfilm in order to see them. You might be able to also find them on the church history library. Some of their records are digitized. Some of them you have to go in there as well. So it's not in the centers. We might have copies in the centers, but you would need to check and see in the world catalog to see if we have copies available that are in other places.
Great. So Pam from StreamYard is asking, what is the difference between searching in the old and the new catalogs?
So there's quite a bit of differences because the new catalog is the one that's being updated. The old catalog stopped being updated in 2022. So if there's new collections that are coming in, those collections and the location of those collections are updated in the new catalog. But the old catalog is still there for you so that you can reference it, and it's set up a little bit easier to see by places. But in the new catalog, you can still search by place, and you can still add in the ward name, and it will pull up the same information.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a person on YouTube who is asking, what are the latest or the most recent records we can search?
So membership records are available only up until 1970. We have to remember that there are private information in these, and so we have privacy laws, and these are so protected if there's living people in them and other things like that. As far as the earliest or the latest, you might want to check with the church history library to see. It depends on what you're looking at, because there's quite a bit of resources, many collections. So if it doesn't have private information of living people, then it's most likely available later.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
Another person on YouTube is asking, if we have books, how can we add them to the database? Is there a way to add books to FamilySearch's database or the church history library?
Any of the books that we currently have that are not scanned, yes, you can either scan them yourself and upload them to the FamilySearch library, connecting them through your family member, or you can bring them into the FamilySearch library and we can scan that for you. We can help you with that. We also have Memory Lane where you can come and scan it in the library, and many of our centers have scanning machines that you can go and scan, and then it makes it easier to upload that information.
Great, thank you. You can also donate books to the library. The email is books@familysearch.org if you would like to donate your own books.
Perfect.
Okay, let me see. Oh, thank you. We had someone ask about how do you get to the new catalog, and so we have that
Okay,
link
so you get
posted
to the
just in the
new,
chat.
yes, if someone could post that in the chat. Yeah, you get to the new catalog by going to familysearch.org/library. And then you'll be able to go to our collections and then to the catalog, and you'll see the two different catalogs.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for posting that link into the chat. Okay, do we have any other questions about the Latter-day Saint church records? We have just a few more minutes, so I'll just give everyone about a minute left before we end today's class. But just a reminder, these are being live streamed, and so you can rewatch the presentation And so if you want to come back, just go to a FamilySearch library or the FamilySearch Facebook page. It's also on the Roots Tech Facebook page, as well as FamilySearch YouTube channel. So Judy from Facebook is asking, who can she contact about making corrections to the Saints by Sea? But since you mentioned that was BYU, I would assume you just contact them.
Yes, there is a place on Saints by Sea where if you go into contact information that does talk about ways that you can reach out to them if you need the database updated or if you'd like to add some more to it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, any other questions about church records? If not, we'll go ahead and end the presentation.